Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Drew Ivan. He's Chief Strategy Officer at Rhapsody. Welcome, Drew.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, excited for the discussion. Always enjoy learning from you. You have a breadth of information that's always awesome. But for those that don't know you, tell us about yourself and Rhapsody.
Thanks. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and Chief Architect at Rhapsody, and we are a healthcare integration company. We focus on the infrastructural layer of interoperability. So we have engines for connecting systems to one another. We have an identity management solution and semantic interoperability capabilities.
Awesome. Well, Rhapsody's on theme here at Vive. You have an AI capability that you just announced within your EMPI solution. It's called Autopilot. Can you tell me about it?
Sure. So the fundamental job of the EMPI is to manage the patient demographics for the different patient records or person records. If it's a payer, it might be members, or it could be employees. It manages the demographics of the people in the organization. And one of the capabilities it has is the ability to combine records from different sources. And so when it gets a new record in, it can judge, is this the same person we've seen before, or is this a brand new person we have to create a new record? And so we've always had an algorithmic matching scheme to try and find out which existing patient, if any, a new record matches to. Mm-hmm. And where Autopilot comes in is taking up some of the gray area where it's not quite clear, is this the same person or a different person? And I can give an example if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd love to hear an example.
Yeah, so if you have two records and maybe the name is the same and the address is the same, but the birth date is different. The question is that the same person with a difference in the birth date between the two data sources, or is it actually a different person? And an algorithm might not be able to tell the difference, so it ends up going into a queue where a human has to look at it. A data steward has to figure out, is this the same person or different? And what Autopilot does is it uses machine learning to make the same decisions that those data stewards would make automatically. So that's what it does, is it uses trained machine learning algorithm to resolve those potential duplicates.
Interesting. It's funny because I actually worked in that when I was in healthcare, mm-hmm. and it was just the students at the university, mm-hmm. and we even had overlaps within that small, I mean it's 20,000 people population, but we even had duplicates. So I think people don't realize what a problem this is and how many need to be resolved. So it's a big problem. I think the interesting challenge though is that some people are hesitant with AI because they fear that that's going to be an inaccurate result, and if you merge those two records and they shouldn't be merged, then we have PHI issues and HIPAA issues and whatnot, right? So how is Autopilot different so it can kind of avoid those issues that AI has?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you merge records inaccurately, you have PHI issues. There's also a risk of not merging them. If you maintain independent records for the same person in two files, then a physician looking at one file won't be aware of the data in the other one, or they'll have to look at both of them and merge them in their head.
Yeah, so then you have care issues.
Exactly, so there's risks either way. And so what we've always done is be able to set a threshold. If the matching criteria qualify at a certain level, then we'll match the patients. If they are different by a certain amount, we'll create a new record. But that gray area in the middle is something we've been working on for 20 years. The product is 20 years old. We've been putting in refinements to that algorithm over the years, and we kind of hit the wall with what we could do with algorithmic approaches. And so that's why we brought in machine learning. That gives us like the next increment. And there is still a risk. There's a risk of a mismatch and a risk of a inaccurate new record. Yeah. But what we've done is ensured that the machine learning makes the same decisions that the human data steward would make, because it's the human data stewards' decisions that train the algorithm. Mm. So where we end up with is not perfection, but it's following the same process that the humans are. And but it can do it much faster, and it can do it 24/7, and it can do it at a lower cost than having a huge staff of data stewards.
Well, and I heard one person say, and it will do it consistently, unlike the human data steward, who may do it inconsistently.
Right. A single human might vary from one decision to the next, but especially from one human to the next, you could get differences in judgment. So there's consistency in the way the algorithm is applied.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about risk. You know, healthcare is a heavily regulated industry, a lot of sensitive data. We already talked about that a little bit. How does Rhapsody's EMPI, you know, with Autopilot in particular, help reduce the compliance risk for organizations?
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, we reduce the risk by also providing a lot of visibility into everything we've done. So if records are merged, there's visibility into who merged them when. They can be unmerged. So there's those extra levels of checkpoint. But for me, the biggest risk is, for example, if you get a data load overnight and 10,000 or 100,000 records come in a single batch file, and you end up with a lot of potential duplicates as a result of that one batch load. It could take days or weeks for a human team to work through all those potential duplicates and resolve them. Whereas with Autopilot, you can resolve them probably before the humans come in for work the next day.
Wow.
And what that means is that you narrow the window of time when you have those records in the gray area.
Wow. That's actually fascinating to think about, because you probably don't want to employ, data stewards all night. Then
Right.
You have to pay them more. That's not healthy for a human, et cetera, right? But AI can do it forever.
And you don't want to staff to your peak load. Like if you think of a payer, they get an influx of new members in January. But if they staff to that level, they may not need the same level of staffing the rest of the year.
That's true. But, the agents are cloud and they can scale as much as they want or as little.
Exactly.
Wow,
Exactly.
That's fascinating. How about on the financial side? What are some of the financial benefits of using EMPI with Autopilot?
Sure. There's the obvious financial benefit of leveraging your existing data stewardship staff. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can go to zero data stewards, but you obviously can leverage that team as effectively as possible with the automation.
You're still escalating some things, I imagine.
Exactly.
Autopilot still can't resolve
Yeah.
really complex ones.
Yeah, there will be cases where the data in the record is insufficient to make a decision no matter what, no matter how smart you are. So you may have to look in the EMR, you may have to call the person. We do have also, though, the ability to bring in data from external sources. We call it referential data. So we make a query to an outside source that fills in some of the gaps in the record. And that can give you things like previous addresses or alternate names, former names. And so that can give you better clues for whether the match is resolved one way or the other.
Interesting. So talk to me about how your EMPI can be used by health tech companies, but also care providers, and the impact on each. I think a lot of people don't even realize that they need an EMPI until later.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, actually, I do need this, right? They don't realize the complexity around EMPI. So talk to me about how it can help, especially health tech companies or even care organizations.
Sure. There's two big benefits to having an EMPI. One is it's a place outside of any individual system where you can manage the person demographics. So instead of having, or in addition to having a copy of a person's record in each of your systems, you have a master record that sits outside of it that you can administer separate from any of the systems of record. So that's one thing, is it's an isolated place to maintain that patient data. And then the second one is managing different IDs from different systems. And this is especially important if you're communicating with other organizations. Like within a single hospital, you may use the EMR's MRN for everything. Mm-hmm. But if you're exchanging data with a payer or another healthcare organization or an HIE, you may find that there's different identifiers for the same person, and linking all those identifiers is the other use case. And so those are really the two reasons why you want an EMPI. But having Autopilot in the picture, I think broadens the audience for EMPI because a statistic I've heard, I haven't seen where the citation came from, is that if you buy software, that's like 30% of your cost, and then the other 70% of your cost is the people to maintain and run that software. And I think by reducing the reliance on the human element, we can reduce that 70% and make EMPI an attractive value proposition to more and more organizations. And that's where the health tech organizations come in, because a provider organization probably has a good reason to have a data stewardship department that focuses on more than just the EMPI.
Sure.
But if a health tech organization is trying to manage that problem of linking up IDs across different sources, they probably don't have the business justification for adding a data stewardship department. And so that's where Autopilot can play a role.
Interesting. You know, a lot of organizations either don't have EMPI as part of their product really, or they have some homegrown solution that's pretty basic. Talk to me about some of the reasons why they should consider outsourcing their EMPI, you know, with Rhapsody, or, you know, at least some sort of solution outside. What are the benefits of outsourcing it versus doing it homegrown?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it sounds like a simple problem, right? Is this the same person or a different one? Well, how hard can it be? You match the first name and the last name and maybe the date of birth and, you know, make a decision. But as soon as you get more than a handful of people in the database, you can see where that breaks down. And there's just a ton of use cases. Like in my case, I'm named after my father. So we had two people with the same first name and last name at the same address when I was living at home, but a different birth date.
Yeah. And when you were a kid, you had the same phone number.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything was the same. And in fact, I sometimes get his car loans on my credit report. So they haven't really cracked this problem either. But if it's only different by birth date and that date is missing, or if it was keyed in incorrectly, then that can become an unreliable differentiator between the two records. And so just a simple case like that can make it really hard to tell if it's the same person or different ones. So a naive algorithm that matches in the easy cases won't get you very far. It'll get you through a demo. It won't get you through operational scale usage.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, it is a big problem. I've seen it firsthand, and I've heard many people talk about the value of EMPI and how they couldn't live without it, because if they didn't, patients would be impacted.
Yeah.
You know, as you kind of talked about, you know, that, you know, it's a security issue, it's a care issue potentially, and so it's a really important problem. And I appreciate you coming to talk with me, and great work on Autopilot and applying AI to solve it even more, so we can, you know, get the people doing work that is a higher level than just the basic data stewardship. So thanks so much, Drew, and thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcast application. Thanks, Drew.
Awesome. Thank you.